We're moving very, very quickly in a direction where we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, where the largest entity in the world, which is the US government, is buying Bitcoin. And so if you're not buying Bitcoin and your government is buying Bitcoin, and you're sort of still on the Peter Schiff train that this is not real money, you got to go see a doctor, because obviously it's real if the U.S. government's buying it. So it doesn't matter how much the U.S. government buys.
Yeah.
The fact that we have a strategic reserve is all you need to know. That is all you need to know. If you're an individual, you need to start front running that as fast as you can, right? You just got the go ahead. What you really need to do is figure out the main question, which is what percent of your portfolio is in Bitcoin.
Today, we're diving into Fred Krueger's optimistic outlook on Bitcoin. Krueger argues that we're still in the early stages of Bitcoin's adoption cycle, and as institutional money begins to pour in over the coming years, the potential for massive growth is undeniable. He envisions Bitcoin's value increasing by a staggering $1 trillion within the next 4 years. Krueger makes it obvious to individual investors that they should avoid being the last to join. He cautions against considering Bitcoin as just another trading asset. Krueger says that attempting to trade Bitcoin or time the market misses the greater picture. Rather, he believes that Bitcoin is a generational opportunity and might be the best performing asset of our lifetime. Investors should concentrate on their allocation and be ready for the inherent volatility of Bitcoin, according to Krueger. He questions the conservative belief that 1% to 2% is enough, arguing that anything below 10% may result in the loss of substantial upside potential. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more in-depth discussions on cryptocurrencies and the digital asset space. Thanks for watching and enjoy the video.
Where is TradFi's allocation to Bitcoin? And let me put it this way. There's about 47 trillion dollars worth of stocks out there, an equivalent amount of bonds, and 5 or 6 trillion of cash out there. And just in the US alone, there's $100 trillion of financial assets. Bitcoin right now is a $1.5 trillion asset class. But of that $1.5 trillion, TradFi only owns about $100 billion worth, which is kind of the value of all the ETFs, which is about 1 million coins, and MicroStrategy, right? So in a world where they have $100 billion of it, but their total pie is $100 trillion, their actual asset allocation is 0.1%. And actually, it's less than that, because Bitcoin's a global asset, and the US doesn't have more than 1/3 of the total global pie. So we're looking at, something like 0.3% of allocation to this asset class. And I mean, we're going to north of 1% very quickly.
Yeah.
We're looking at $1 trillion coming into this asset over the next, let's call it 4 years. But it's, if this money's coming in, you don't really want to be the last guy in the pool. I think they always have this adage: you don't want to be the first guy in the pool, but you don't want to be the last. You certainly don't want to be the last guy in the pool either. The first problem is, if you think about trading Bitcoin, you're in the wrong. You've already said the wrong thing. Okay, you should not trade Bitcoin. Period. Full stop. Ever. Okay. Yeah. So the fact that you're asking about trading Bitcoin is wrong. This is probably going to be, it will be the best asset, the best performing asset of your entire life. And if you're trying to pick where it's going in the next 3 months, I have no idea. But this thing is going to go so much higher that the only thing you need to do is, how can I possibly stomach the inevitable volatility that's going to happen, and how much of a position can I take? Now, I would sort of say, if your number is 10% of your portfolio or less, you're probably thinking the wrong number, right? You're probably in the wrong zip code. Okay. So if you're saying 1 to 2%, great. You've just seen the best asset of all times, and with the best catalyst for growth of all times, and you're coming up with 2%. What's happening with the other 90%? You're just going to put it in the bank? You're gonna put it in some dog stock. All the amount of money that's come into this market is inconsequential relative to the amount of money that's about to come into this market. It just doesn't matter. So, again, there's these big buckets of money in the world, right? So there's self-directed people going to their stock, their portfolio, their account at Merrill Lynch and clicking a few buttons and picking up some exposure to MSTR or one of the new ETFs. That's a third. You have institutions like pension funds, retirement accounts, and things like that. That's another third. And then you have managed accounts where wealth managers are allocating on behalf of their clients. That's a third. And none of these things they're just like dipping the very top bit of their toe in the water. That's 0.1%. They are not involved yet. So, it's sort of like the dam there's a little bit of water, there's a little fissure in the dam, and we're seeing some water drip through the dam. And we're going, oh my God, is this, how much is the entire dam is about to break. So, you're in, the looking at the chart of Bitcoin in the past, I don't think informs you very well as to where it's about to go. We are about to have a breaking dam moment where TradFi has finally awoken to this asset. And number one, understands the asset, understands the opportunity, and number two, can now, for the last 9 months, invest in this asset. That the ETF is live. They can push a button, they can get exposure. So I think, we have the catalyst for this move, which is the ETF. That's the necessary and sufficient condition. Before that, traditional investors couldn't buy Bitcoin easily. Sure, they could open an account at Coinbase, but that's a very small percentage of people who are going to do that. Most people, they have their assets in a brokerage account or in a bank, and for them to wire money to this thing called Coinbase and buy Bitcoin it's a stretch, and it's even more of a stretch to tell them you got to put a private. Get a seed phrase, copy it down, store it in a safe, get a ledger, and hold your own Bitcoin yourself. That's not going to happen for most.
No, it's a very good point.
They're not going to do that.
Krueger also cautions against expanding into other cryptocurrencies, stating that Bitcoin is the best option due to its ease of use and solid history. He cautions that examining various blockchain protocols, price patterns, and speculative projects while investing in other cryptocurrencies can be distracting and frequently lead investors down a rabbit hole. Rather, Krueger suggests concentrating only on Bitcoin. Although some altcoins might do well in the near future, he thinks many won't. Bitcoin's stability, security, and distinct status as a genuinely decentralized, internationally recognized asset are what Krueger believes make it the most valuable cryptocurrency. By retaining Bitcoin, investors can simplify and narrow down their portfolio by avoiding the dangers and complications of managing several blockchain ecosystems. He contends that this can offer clarity and a dependable route to long-term financial success. But that's not all. Before we dive back into Krueger's insights, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more finance and cryptocurrency content. Now, let's hear his following words.
There's a tsunami comes first, right? Which is, we get this thing in everybody's portfolios. And then the question is, once we have this sort of phase shift of, that we're about to see in the next year, I would say, then we're going to start to see that volatility come down, and people are going to take advantage of dips and buy them. And more people are going to put money in, and we're going to have more steady eddy. But not now, right? Right now, it's exactly the opposite. Volatility over the last 4 days has been the highest it's ever been. It is a promise that Trump made to us in Nashville when I was in with all my fellow Bitcoiners in the actual physical same room with Donald Trump. When he made that promise, I was in the same room with RFK Jr. when he made that promise. We were in the same room with Senator Loomis when they made that promise. This is happening, okay? And you may be in disbelief that it's happening, but it is going to happen by, I would say, March of next year. So this is going to happen, and it's not just going to happen suddenly with like Congress fighting it. No, there's going to be talk of this thing right when Congress gets back to work on the 5th of January. So we're moving very, very quickly in a direction where we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, where the largest entity in the world, which is the U.S. government, is buying Bitcoin. And so if you're not buying Bitcoin and your government is buying Bitcoin, and you're sort of still on the Peter Schiff train that this is not real money, you got to go see a doctor, because obviously it's real if the U.S. government is buying it. So it doesn't matter how much the U.S. government buys.
Yeah.
The fact that we have a strategic reserve is all you need to know. That is all you need to know. And that means that if you're a company, your company needs to buy Bitcoin. If you're a country, your country needs to buy Bitcoin. If you're an individual, you need to start front running that as fast as you can, right? You just got the go ahead. So you need to start your allocation, whatever it is way too low, So that's the mental shift. I'm not saying they're all terrible. What I'm saying is the biggest opportunity right now, and the biggest opportunity in your portfolio, is Bitcoin. It's how much Bitcoin do you own? What you really need to do is figure out the main question, which is what percent of your portfolio is in Bitcoin.
According to Fred Krueger, a significant change in the Bitcoin market is imminent. He predicts that Bitcoin will play a big role in many portfolios during the first tsunami phase, which will lead to wider adoption. The current severe volatility will progressively decrease. As a result of more investors taking advantage of market dips as purchasing opportunities, price action will eventually become more stable. According to Krueger, the U.S. government will soon establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve based on direct pledges made by influential individuals such as Senator Cynthia Lummis, Donald Trump, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He makes it clear that this is not merely hypothetical talk, but rather a reality that will likely materialize by the beginning of next year, with sober talks in Congress starting up again in January. If the world's biggest government, the United States, starts purchasing Bitcoin, it's a clear indication that businesses, nations, and individuals should do the same. Even governments now acknowledge the legitimacy of Bitcoin, he says. So if you're still doubting it, it's time to reconsider. Krueger's key message to investors is straightforward: simplify and focus on Bitcoin. While it's tempting to get caught up in trading and chasing the latest altcoin narratives, the safest and most promising bet is Bitcoin. He stresses that most altcoins won't outperform in the long run, and holding Bitcoin is a way to avoid unnecessary risk and complexity. The most critical question investors need to address is how much of their portfolio should be allocated to Bitcoin. If you found this breakdown insightful, please like this video, subscribe, and join the discussion in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and let's keep learning about the exciting future of Bitcoin.